A super interesting political meeting took place recently at Watamu, at the coast. Yeah, that is in Kilifi County. Watamu is not too far from Malindi. They're very close. And this secret political meeting featured some very interesting characters. Raila Odinga, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, David Murathe, I'm sure you remember him, one of the main backers of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Murathe is the man who remained former President Uhuru Kenyatta's key advisor through his 10 years in power. And also in attendance was the local governor, Gideon Mungaro, Kilifi governor. And of course, what is most intriguing about this meeting is the timing. What is happening in Kenya currently? What is going on? That is what makes this meeting very intriguing. Now, of course, I'm aware that many political pundits have written off this secret meeting. It doesn't matter. It has no impact. This is just the political class circling their wagons, getting together to protect themselves. That is the verdict of very many political analysts. However, in my opinion, there is something much deeper here that we need to look at, and something that will have great impact in our politics in the days to come. Welcome to my show today. If you have that popcorn, if you have that favorite beverage of yours, now is the time to get it. Sit back and let's get this show on the road. But before we do that, please allow me to introduce you to our sponsors for today's show. Lemify, previously Lemonade Finance. Did you know that if you're in Europe, you can get a €10 cashback on your first transaction of €50 and above? Oh yes. And if you're in the US, you can get a $10 cashback for your first transaction of $100 or more. And of course, to qualify for this, you just have to do something very simple. All you have to do is use my code, Kumekucha. Lemify has many benefits, some of the best rates in the market, easy to use, and so I highly recommend that you give it a try next time that you need to send money back home. Now, if you're interested in sponsoring a video on this channel, yeah, people who have done so tell me that they have gotten a great response. Yeah, if you're interested, we have a super special offer that will be available only for the next 48 hours. For the next 48 hours, strictly. And for only Kenya shillings 7,999, you will be able to enjoy that exposure that others have enjoyed for the usual price of 19K. So I suggest you take quick action. I believe you can see details on your screens right now. Naturally, the slots will be very few, and so I'll be handing them over on a first come, first served basis. That is the fairest way of doing it. So please take action quickly. Shoot me an email or send an SMS to that number so that I can book you in and you can avoid any possible disappointment. Right, back to this very interesting meeting in Watamu. Now, it is very important before we proceed for us to understand that the presence of David Murathe in that meeting is key. Who is David Murathe? Now, maybe many Kenyans have forgotten that David Murathe used to be a member of parliament, a very controversial member of parliament. And he was brought out of the political cold by the president's mother, Mama Kenyatta. And the whole purpose was for Murathe to guide Uhuru through the murky and very tricky waters of politics in the country called Kenya. which I believe Murathe did with distinction throughout the 10 years that Uhuru was in power. Because Uhuru had various very serious challenges that he faced. And looking back, I believe he did not do a bad job, especially when you try to compare him to the current presidency. That is just the truth. I'm not being personal. In other words, Murathe is a proven political fixer. Now the next question we need to ask ourselves is, why didn't Uhuru meet with Raila on their own, as they have done many times before? Why was David Murathe included in the meeting? The answer is simple. It is whatever they are discussing had a lot to do with retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and his political future. Yeah. Oh yes, you heard me right. Now it is important for us to remember that Murathe told us very early that Uhuru is not retiring from politics. In other words, there was a very well laid plan for what Uhuru was going to do after he leaves the presidency. Yeah, a very intricate, detailed plan. And of course we know that a lot of things went wrong with that plan. But maybe before we proceed, let me give you the evidence, concrete evidence of this. I prepared an audio where Murathe was explaining this. Let us hear it from the horse's mouth. I'll be back shortly.
Kwani Uhuru anaenda wapi? Uhuru is going nowhere. Uhuru is going to be here. Even if he stops being president, kwani atahama Kenya? There is going to be new formations. Already there are so many alternatives. They can agree even with the former prime minister, for the former prime minister to run for the presidency of this country. And if he then comes in with the party, with the majority seats, the leader of the party with the majority seats, as per the BBI recommendation, forms the government. And if Uhuru is a party leader, he will form that government, either by himself or in coalition with his partners. Nothing stops him. The only caveat is that he cannot be president for more than 2 terms. We better start getting used to the idea, because that is what this new dispensation is all about. So that you can either by yourself or in a coalition with others form government, all right, through garnering the majority seats in the House. And that is why you're having this conversation about whether the Prime Minister will be executive or non-executive. But as far as we are concerned, Uhuru is going nowhere. He will remain the leader of the Jubilee Party. And if anybody wants to challenge Uhuru for the leadership of the party, let them come out and say it now.
It should be very clear to Kenyans by now that had the BBI initiative gone through to a referendum and become part of our constitution, we would have avoided many of the problems the country faces today. Bottom line, we would never have been where we are today. We also know that the BBI was shut down, fought tooth and nail. A lot of money was poured to frustrate the BBI. And you know who did that? The current president, William Samoei Ruto. And it is very easy to understand why he did that. He did not want, he loathed the idea of having anybody look over his shoulder as he governs the country. He wanted an all-powerful presidency. Now, the way the BBI setup was, it was designed to make our democracy much more stable, address all the major problems we faced in August 2022 and after that, including the blatant, shameless rigging of our presidential elections. The BBI addressed all those issues very effectively. And of course, in retrospect, we can clearly see Ruto would not have been able to do a lot of the dodgy things he has done had the BBI become law. Okay? SHA would never have happened. You know, many people don't realize the implications of what the Auditor General told us, that SHA is not owned by the government. Many people didn't realize the implications of that, the full implications. You see, deals with private entities involve something called a contract. You cannot come out of a contract just like that. Indeed, you cannot come out of a contract involving so much money unscathed. And therefore, Kenyans getting out of this nightmare of SHA, hiyo ni ndoto ya mchana. It will be very, very difficult. And even if a future regime finds a way of getting us out of this mess of a contract, it will cost the Kenyan government a fortune. That one you can be sure of. Anyway, Ruto would not have been able to do so many things he has done, by the way, which are not for the good of the country. That was one of the huge advantages of the BBI. But let us stay on point. The BBI was also designed in such a manner that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was going to remain politically relevant. Not as president, but as a very influential political leader, officially. And of course, that is the last thing William Ruto wanted. Yeah, I think that should be clear. Now, the reason why all that information is very key and very important in trying to understand what may have been discussed in Watamu, yeah, is that according to the information I have so far, that meeting had a lot to do with a plan B for the BBI, okay, to enable the country to return to a place where it is much more stable than it is currently. That was the whole objective, the main agenda of that meeting. Now, I'm fully aware of the fact that some UDA, naive supporters, may want to shoot back and say, Chris, we have a president. Whatever those people are discussing is irrelevant. It will have no impact. Well, I would call such people naive, because the truth is, in case you haven't noticed, the current political situation in Kenya is that President Ruto is cornered. There is no way he can govern alone. There is no way. And so, is in that position where he is forced against his will and against his wishes and against what he would have liked to work with other people. And that is why it is the golden opportunity for Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, our former president, and Raila Odinga to organize how they can come into this arrangement, what role they can play to bring the country to another kind of BBI. Shall we call it BBI Plan B? And this is very politically significant. Let us break it down further. You see, Kenyans are very much against Raila joining Ruto. They don't want to hear that story. However, the reality is in a very simple question. Which is the quickest way of getting power? Yeah, even if it is partial power, not complete power. But what is the quickest way of getting some power? It is through an appointment. Organizing an election takes time. We don't even have an IEBC in place. And you see, the country is in a crisis. The country is sinking. And so, does it make sense to wait for an election while the country is where it is? You could easily find that by the time we arrive at the elections, there is no country left. Yeah, that is the reality. That's the truth. And therefore, what is being planned here is not just the appointment of a few people from Raila's camp and Uhuru's camp to cabinet. No. What is in the works here is a BBI, which is unofficial. And that is very explosive news. And in my opinion, it is proven by this secret meeting, or rather this chini ya maji meeting in Watamu, Kilifi, that took place recently. It is also evidence that there's a lot more in this deal which Raila made with Ruto, to join his government. Indeed, it supports those who have been telling us that actually this arrangement between Ruto and Raila can be best compared to the grand coalition government we had after the clashes of 2007. Okay? This Watamu meeting should prove that to anybody who was still doubting. Now you'll have to excuse me because I know emotions are running very high in Kenya currently. Ruto must go. That is all Kenyans want to hear. Any other idea suggested to them, any other thing suggested to them, no matter how practical, Kenyans don't want to hear. That is the truth. And you really can't blame Kenyans. The government of William Ruto has wreaked havoc on the country called Kenya. That is not breaking news. That is not a secret. That is not propaganda. That is just a cold, proven fact beyond any doubt. Okay? No other president on the entire continent of Africa has ever been hated, despised, not wanted, the way President Ruto of Kenya is today. He has broken that record. And there's no doubt about that. I've looked back in history. I've looked at various regimes in various countries, even very dictatorial regimes. All of them had at least some semblance of support. Even the very chaotic governments in Liberia of people like Master Sergeant Doe, they did not reach the level which President Ruto has reached today in Kenya. That is just the truth. However, we also have to face reality. Even as we wait for Ruto to go, is there anything which can be done to improve the current situation? Very urgently. This is an emergency for Kenyans. That is really the question Kenyans should ask themselves. And nobody needs to support anybody. Nobody needs to be a supporter of Raila Odinga. Nobody needs to be a supporter of Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, in my opinion, all these relics of history should just go home and relax. We need a brand new dispensation. New faces, preferably people who have not been in politics before. That is my opinion. That is the only thing which can save us. Others, if we continue the same old, we try and replace Ruto with the same old, Kenyans will have gone through all this suffering for nothing. Those Gen Zs who gave their lives in June 2024 for a better Kenya, they would have lost their lives for nothing. We cannot continue as a country like this. We need a brand new beginning. That should be obvious. But meanwhile, these wazés have something in the works. And this is what they have in mind. And the truth is, what they want to do is very practical. However, in my opinion, it will not work. And I've shocked many of you. After all that I've said, it will not work. Why? Let me just give you a practical example. You can have a problem with your wife, and somebody decides that they want to make peace between you and your wife. But by the time they arrive, this problem has gone too far. Your wife can't stand seeing you. Even your smell from afar she can't stand. And you know the way women are emotional. Yani, it can't work. Because there's too much raw emotion. There's too much anger for it to work. Yes, it is practical. Yes, it makes sense for a man to sit down with his wife and agree and forgive each other. Yes, all that makes sense. But then where this disagreement has reached, where this anger has reached, the way things are boiling, it becomes impossible. I believe that is where we are as a country now. Kenya has boiled too much. Kenya is at a boiling point. And because of that, not even these good intentions or bad intentions or whatever they are, not even these practical intentions that could ease suffering for Kenyans almost immediately, not even this idea will be accepted by Kenyans. Because things are just too bad. Kenyans are just too angry. Yani, sufuria imeboil, ikaboil, it is too late. It is too hot to cool just quickly like that. Yeah? Even if you pour water on it, that water will start boiling immediately. Even if you pour cold water. That is where Kenya has reached. And therefore, in my humble opinion, I could be wrong, whatever Raila and Uhuru are doing will not work. But then let us wait and see what happens. I just thought it would be a good idea for us to understand what is in the works here. It is something much deeper than what most analysts are discussing. Just a quick reminder, those of you who want to take advantage of the special offer we have to sponsor something on this channel, please act quickly. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.